Well, today we're going to talk about the power of whole foods. Food is such a fundamental part of human survival, but its impact extends far beyond just mere sustenance. The choices people make regarding what they eat can significantly affect not only their health, but also the economy and the environment. In our modern world, processed foods have become a staple in many diets due to their convenience, affordability, and widespread availability. However, hidden costs associated with these foods often go unnoticed. The rising healthcare expenses linked to diet-related diseases, to the environment degradation caused by industrial farming and packaging waste, the widespread consumption of processed food has profound consequences. Additionally, food accessibility challenges, such as food deserts, further exacerbate social and economic inequalities. Understanding the economic and environmental considerations of processed foods is essential for making informed dietary choices and advocating for a more sustainable future. So let's start and just talk a little bit about the role of food in overall health. Since food is a part of our, of course, existence, it provides essential nutrients we need just to sustain our life, maintain our health, and promote longevity. The choices we make daily significantly impact our physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Over the past century, our dietary patterns have changed. They've shifted dramatically with a growing reliance on processed foods that are often high in added sugar, unhealthy fats, and artificial additives. Meanwhile, fresh fruits and vegetables, nuts, and whole grains continue to be associated with optimal health, disease prevention, and increased longevity. Today, we're going to explore the role of food in overall health, examine the rise of processed foods in our modern diets, and look at a brief comparison between whole foods and processed foods to highlight their impact on our well-being. So let's talk about food being a source of much more than just calories. It is the fuel that sustains our bodies and minds. But as we consume food, the nutrients they provide are proteins, carbohydrates, fats, vitamins, and minerals. All of these play a crucial role in various bodily functions, from cellular repair to immune system support. So, a well balanced diet not only keeps us healthy, but also helps prevent chronic diseases, enhances our cognitive function, and promotes longevity. So these nutrients, they support unique functions in our body. For instance, proteins can support muscle growth, tissue repair, and enzyme production. Carbohydrates provide energy, and particularly for brain function. Fats are essential for hormone production, brain health, and cellular integrity. And vitamins and minerals help regulate bodily processes, such as immune response and bone health. A nutrient-dense diet with these essential components helps reduce inflammation, it helps regulate blood sugar levels, and improve overall vitality. Significant studies have consistently linked healthy eating patterns such as Mediterranean diet, which emphasizes whole foods, healthy fats, and lean proteins to increase longevity and lower risk of age-related diseases. Chronic diseases include heart disease, diabetes, and cancer, and these are heavily influenced by diet. Poor dietary choices, particularly those in highly processed foods, contribute to obesity, high blood pressure, elevated cholesterol levels, and on the other hand, consuming a wide variety of whole foods can lower your risk of these things, lowering your risk for cardiovascular disease by reducing cholesterol and blood pressure, helping to prevent type 2 diabetes by maintaining stable blood sugar levels, and reducing the likelihood of certain cancers by offering antioxidants with anti-inflammatory compounds. Research from the Blue Zones Project, which studies the world's longest living populations, suggests that diets rich in plant-based whole foods, legumes, and healthy fats contribute significantly to an increased life expectancy. So let's talk for a minute about gut health and immunity. The gut microbiome, which is a collection of trillions of bacteria in our digestive system, plays a significant role in immunity, metabolism, and mental health. A diet rich in whole foods like fiber-rich fruits, vegetables, and fermented foods supports a diverse and healthy microbiome. Conversely, highly processed foods with artificial preservatives and low fiber can disrupt gut health, leading to digestive disorders, inflammation, and weakened immunity. In summary, the quality of our diet impacts our overall health, longevity, and disease prevention. However, modern dietary habits have shifted significantly with an increased reliance on processed food, which poses serious health risks. So, what are processed foods? These are foods that have been altered from their natural state through industrial processes. They can range from minimally processed foods to ultra-processed foods, and we'll talk about what those mean a little bit later. So soft drinks are processed, fast food or fried items, packaged snacks, processed meats, instant noodles, all of these are processed. Several factors have contributed to the rise of processed foods in modern diets, convenience being the first one. Processed foods require minimal preparation and they're easy to store. Also, processed foods are easy to drive through and pick up at a fast food location. Affordability is another reason we have increased consumption of processed foods. A lot of processed foods are cheaper than fresh whole foods. Taste and addictiveness are another thing. High levels of sugar, salt, and artificial flavor enhancers make processed foods more palatable and in many cases addictive. And then there's just aggressive marketing. The food industry heavily promotes processed foods. Often they target children and busy consumers. So while processed foods may be convenient, they pose a lot of health risk. Weight gain and obesity. Many processed foods contain excess calories with very little nutritional value, leading to overeating. Increased risk of chronic diseases. Studies have linked diets high in processed foods to heart disease, diabetes, and certain cancers. And poor gut health. That's another risk. Artificial additives and low fiber content in processed foods can harm the gut microbiome. And then we have nutrient deficiencies. Most of these processed foods lack essential vitamins and minerals, contributing to malnutrition. A study in the British Medical Journal found that consuming ultra-processed foods was associated with a higher risk of premature death due to chronic disease. In spite of these risks, processed foods dominate many people's diets, often replacing healthier whole food options. So understanding the difference between whole foods and processed foods is key to making healthier choices. Okay, so what are whole foods? Whole foods are minimally processed and remain as close to their natural state as possible. These would be fruits and vegetables, whole grains, beans like legumes, or legumes like beans, nuts and seeds, and lean proteins. The traditional diet, rich in whole foods, doesn't have to be overwhelming. Eating whole foods is going to include reading your ingredient labels because it can be prepackaged. We'll talk about that. It means you might cook more from home, incorporate more plants, and find ways to swap out your packaged snacks for healthy snacks like nuts or yogurt. Food plays a critical role in our overall health and longevity. And our modern diet is heavily influenced by these processed foods. Prioritizing whole nutrient-dense foods can significantly reduce your risk of it can reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease, but of chronic diseases. It can improve your gut health and enhance your longevity. Okay, so let's talk about in more detail what whole foods are. Okay, so whole foods are the foundation of a healthy and balanced diet. And unlike processed foods, which are often altered, refined, or mixed with artificial additives, whole foods remain as close to their natural state as possible. These nutrient-rich foods provide the body with essential vitamins, minerals, fiber, and antioxidants, critical components for overall health and longevity. In today's fast-paced world, where processed foods and convenience foods dominate the grocery store shelves, many people have moved away from consuming whole foods. However, understanding what whole foods are and their nutritional benefits can help support health, and how they can help support health, sorry. So it makes it essential for making informed dietary choices. So this discussion explores the definition of whole foods, provides examples of whole food sources, and highlights the nutritional retention benefits. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the characteristics of whole foods. We've just already mentioned that they are either unprocessed or very minimally processed and have not been significantly altered. They don't contain artificial additives, preservatives, or chemicals. They're rich in their natural nutrients, including fiber, vitamins, and minerals. They're free from that excessive processing that strips away the beneficial components. Whole foods can be found in various food groups like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and lean meats. By prioritizing whole foods in the diet, individuals can enjoy better digestion, improved energy levels, and a reduced risk of chronic disease. So let's talk about an example. A fresh apple is a whole food. It remains unchanged from its natural form, in contrast to apple-flavored snacks or canned fruit with added sugars, which are processed versions that have been modified with preservatives, sweeteners, and artificial flavors. So whole foods can come from both plant-based and animal-based sources, providing a diverse range of essential nutrients. So let's talk about a few of these categories. Let's take fruits and vegetables first. These are some of the most nutrient-dense foods available. They are rich in vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and fiber. And these are essential for immune function, digestion, and disease prevention. So fruits, obviously fruits and vegetables, apples, bananas, oranges, leafy green vegetables like spinach or kale, even lettuce. Lettuce, iceberg lettuce, people will tell you it doesn't have nutritional value, but it is rich in water. And it's a natural source of water that our bodies absorb better. So even iceberg lettuce is good for us. Cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower, and also root vegetables like our favorite sweet potatoes and russet potatoes, beets, even like tomato, which is a fruit actually, and cucumbers. There's such variety that ensure a wide spectrum of essential nutrients, promoting overall well-being. Whole grains are different than refined grains, which have been stripped of their fiber and nutrients. A whole grain contains 3 parts of the grain kernel. So this is going to be the bran, which is the fiber-rich outer layer. This contains antioxidants and B vitamins. The germ, which is the nutrient-packed inner layer containing healthy fats and proteins, and the endosperm. And this is the starchy center that provides energy. Switching from like white bread and refined pasta to whole grain options will help support digestion, stabilize blood sugar levels, and reduce your risk of heart disease. Nuts and seeds are also excellent sources of healthy fats, protein, fiber, and micronutrients. They provide essential omega-3 fatty acids, which are important for brain health, inflammation and inflammation reduction. They help reduce inflammation. So why would you include nuts and seeds in your diet? They support heart health by reducing bad cholesterol. They provide sustained energy because of their high protein and healthy fat content. and they promote better digestion and gut health. So, unlike your processed nut butters and flavored nuts, which often contain added sugar and unhealthy oils, consuming nuts and seeds in their raw or roasted form maximizes their health benefits. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Lean meats, poultry, and fish. So, animal-based whole foods provide high-quality protein, essential amino acids, and important nutrients like iron, zinc, and B vitamins. This is going to be things like grass-fed beef, good chicken, wild-caught fish, if at all possible, like salmon or sardines, turkey, and eggs. Opting for lean and minimally processed meats ensures that the body receives protein for muscle maintenance and repair without the added preservatives and sodium found in processed meats like bacon, sausages, and deli cuts. So, also in whole food, examples are going to be legumes, are going to be all your beans, your lentils, your chickpeas, even peas. And these are excellent sources of plant-based protein. These also are high in fiber and essential minerals like iron and magnesium. And you can also include dairy and fermented foods. Whole dairy products like milk, yogurt, especially, and cheese can provide calcium, protein, and probiotics that support gut health. So, nutrient retention is one of the power of whole foods. Whole foods retain their natural vitamins, minerals, fiber, and antioxidants, which are often lost during food processing. So, whole foods provide a diverse range of vitamins and minerals that are essential for body functions. So, vitamin C, which is found in citrus fruits, boosts your immunity. Vitamin A, which is found in carrots and sweet potatoes, will support your vision and skin health. Iron, which is found in spinach and red meat, prevents anemia. Calcium, which is in leafy greens and dairy, strengthens your bones. Dietary fiber found in whole grains, fruits, and vegetables promotes healthy digestion by preventing constipation, helps with weight management by keeping you full longer, helps with heart health by lowering cholesterol levels. Refined grains and processed foods are often stripped of fiber, leading to digestive problems and sugar imbalances. Whole foods are naturally rich in antioxidants, which help fight inflammation and reduce the risk of chronic disease. Flavonoids, which are found in berries and dark chocolate, help support the brain health. Lycopene, which is found in tomatoes, protects from cancer. And beta carotene, which is found in sweet potatoes, enhances skin and eye health. There are so many antioxidants in different foods. That's why we want you to get a variety of whole foods when you eat. But highly processed foods lack antioxidants and contain harmful additives, which can contribute to oxidative stress and aging. So, whole foods are the foundation of a nutritious and balanced diet, providing these essential vitamins, minerals, fiber, and antioxidants without the harmful additives found in processed foods. By incorporating these fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and lean proteins, you can improve digestion, your energy levels, and help prevent disease. So let's talk about what processed foods are. Since foods play a crucial role in our health and well-being, it's important for us to be able to recognize what a processed food is. So processed foods are foods that have been changed from their original natural state through various mechanical, chemical, or industrial methods. This would include freezing, canning, baking, drying, adding preservatives, and refined ingredients. So not all food processing is harmful. In fact, some minimally processed foods, like frozen vegetables, retain their nutritional value and provide convenience without excessive additives. However, highly processed or ultra-processed foods often contain artificial ingredients, unhealthy fats, and high amounts of sugar and salt, which can negatively impact your health. Let's go with this example. A fresh apple is processed. I'm sorry, a fresh apple is unprocessed. Apple slices sold in a plastic container with added preservatives are minimally processed. And apple flavored fruit snacks with artificial colors and sweeteners are ultra processed. So let's talk about those levels of processing a little bit more. So foods that have been altered only slightly to improve convenience or extend their shelf life, but still retain most of their natural nutrients, are minimally processed foods. These are things like frozen fruits and vegetables without the added sugar or sauces, canned beans and lentils, the low sodium versions, whole grain bread and pasta with minimal ingredients. Let me repeat those words again, with minimal ingredients. Plain yogurt that doesn't have added sugar or flavors, even pasteurized milk that they pasteurize it for a longer shelf life. Minimally processed foods retain most of their nutrients and are generally healthy choices when compared to the more heavily processed alternatives. Moderately processed foods go through several processing steps, such as grinding, refining, or mixing, but they still contain some natural ingredients. Cheese is one of these, natural, but processed by aging and fermentation. Canned tuna or salmon with added salt or oil. Packaged whole grain cereals that may have added nutrients but minimal sugar. And nut butters, even though we talked about a few minutes ago, well, a raw nut or roasted nut is better than nut butter, but nut butters are moderately processed. So while moderately processed foods can still be nutritious, consumers should check ingredient labels for added sugars, unhealthy fats, and excessive sodium. Now, ultra-processed foods are heavily modified. They have multiple artificial ingredients, preservatives, and unhealthy additives. These foods are often designed to be hyperpalatable, meaning they are engineered to be addictive. They lead to overeating and unhealthy outcomes. Some examples are going to be fast food, sugary cereals, soft drinks. The impact would be like high in added sugar might lead to obesity or diabetes. Containing unhealthy fats increases your risk of heart disease. And low in fiber can cause digestive problems or blood sugar spikes. So what are the common examples of processed foods? So many modern diets are filled with processed foods because they are conveniently and widely available. They're also aggressively marketed. So let's talk about fast food, which is heavily processed, high in calories, loaded with unhealthy fats, sugar, and salt. While fast food may be convenient and it may be cheap, frequent consumption is linked to obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. Burgers with refined white buns and processed cheese, deep fried foods and unhealthy fat. They're frying that in an unhealthy fat. Sugary milkshakes and sodas. Instead of fast food that qualifies like these things, how about choosing something grilled instead of a fried food, opting for a whole grain bun, or selecting fresh toppings that can make the fast food slightly healthier? Even at McDonald's, you can have the choice to get apple slices as opposed to French fries. Or I think McDonald's still has salads that they offer. Examples of packaged snacks are often designed for a long shelf life. This is another form of ultra processed food. They're usually low in nutrients and high in artificial additives. These are things like potato chips, cheese puffs, sweetened granola bars, crackers with artificial flavoring, and microwave popcorn. Microwave popcorn is really bad for you. It has a lot of chemicals in it. Replacing these snacks with raw nuts, fresh fruit, homemade granola, or plain popcorn are a much healthier option. So let's talk about cereals. Many breakfast cereals are marketed as healthy. Isn't that interesting? But they often contain excessive sugar, artificial flavors, and refined grains. So when you think about Frosted Flakes or Cocoa Puffs, honey-coated cereals, these are not healthy cereals. Honey Nut Cheerios, that is not a healthy cereal, but choose instead oatmeal or plain granola or whole grain cereals with minimally added sugar. So, what about soft drinks? Um, Soft drinks, soda, sugary beverages, these are high in high fructose corn syrup, artificial sweeteners, and empty calories. They definitely increase the risk of obesity, diabetes, and tooth decay. Energy drinks, sweet tea, any of the sweetened tea drinks, or flavored coffee drinks that have sugary syrups. Instead of choosing these, opt instead for like water, herbal tea, or maybe you'll have a water from home and maybe you can add some flavor to that, natural flavor. Understanding the impact of your health from the processed food is essential for making informed decisions. So when you think about meats, your deli meats are often high, well, deli meats, bacon, sausages, hot dogs, high in nitrates and nitrites. These are cancer increasing additives. Risk of cancer and your risk of heart disease increase as you continue to eat processed meats. And frozen meals, instant or frozen meals, prepared frozen dinners, instant mac and cheese, instant like ramen noodles. These are really processed. They have a lot of added flavor, there are a lot of high salt, a lot of white carbs. By reducing your processed food intake and choosing whole nutrient dense food, individuals can improve your overall health and energy levels and your long-term well-being. So let's move on and let's talk about nutritional differences, whole foods versus processed foods as far as nutrients. So since nutrition plays a crucial role in maintaining our overall health and the quality of foods we consume significantly impacts our well-being, one of the most important distinctions in the modern diets is between whole foods and processed foods. So, as we've already stated before, the whole foods are going to contain essential nutrients for optimal health. Processed foods are often stripped of these nutrients and loaded with additives. So, the nutritional benefits of, let's see if I'm on the right slide. Yeah, nutritional benefits of whole foods is going to be rich in vitamins and minerals. Whole foods are an excellent source of vitamin C. We've already talked about that. Iron and calcium. These nutrients support immune function, bone health, and energy production. Whole foods are high in fiber. Fiber is essential for digestion, for promoting regular bowel movements, and preventing constipation. Whole grains, fruits, vegetables, and legumes are all high in fiber, and this helps maintain blood sugar levels and lower your cholesterol. How about packed with antioxidants? Antioxidants help the body from oxidative stress and inflammation by reducing the risk of chronic diseases like cancer and heart disease. Berries, nuts, seeds, and dark leafy green vegetables are excellent sources of antioxidants. And another benefit is they're naturally low in unhealthy fats and sodium. So whole foods can contain healthy fats like omega-3 fatty acids, which are found in fish and nuts. These support brain function and heart health. They're naturally low in sodium and they reduce the risk of high blood pressure and heart disease. So what about processed foods? Processed foods, oh, hang on just a second, excuse me. Sorry about that, I had to sneeze. So as we've already stated, the processed foods are altered from their natural state. And so this means the refining removes essential nutrients. Many processed foods like white bread and white rice are made from refining grains, removing the nutrient rich bran and germ. This strips away the fiber, the vitamins, and minerals, making the final product less nutritious. Also, processed foods lose natural enzymes and phytochemicals. The heating process, like pasteurizing and frying, can destroy the natural enzymes and the phytochemicals that aid digestion and prevent disease. So, like raw fruits, vegetables, these contain live enzymes that help with digestion, but these enzymes are lost when overcooked or heavily processed. Also, artificial nutrient fortification does not replace whole nutrients. So, some processed foods are fortified with synthetic vitamins and minerals, but they lack the full spectrum of nutrients found in whole foods. For example, fortified breakfast cereals may contain added iron, but they lack the fiber and the antioxidants also found in whole grains. And you need all of these things working in combination for good health. And last on our list for lacking of nutrients, there's added preservatives. Preservatives may extend shelf life, but they have negative health effects, um, like sodium nitrite in processed meats, cancer-causing nitrates and nitrites. Uh, those are preservatives that help the shelf life of process, the processed meat, but they're not. That preservative is not healthy for your body. Artificial colors and flavors. These enhance appearance and taste, but they can cause allergic reactions. They can cause other damage inside the body. And so adding artificial colors and flavors is a negative thing for the processed foods. And let's talk just for a brief second about high fructose corn syrup. This is a cheap sugar substitute. It's found in many processed foods, and it contributes to obesity and diabetes. You hear a lot of talk these days about high fructose corn syrup. It is not good for us. So, what is the impact of added sugars and all of these unhealthy fats? So, excessive sugar intake is one of the leading contributors to obesity, diabetes, and metabolic disorders. So, many processed foods contain hidden sugars, even in products that don't taste sweet. The effects of added sugar spikes your blood sugar. It leads to insulin resistance and increase of type 2 diabetes. This also promotes fat storage, also leading to obesity and cardiovascular disease, and can cause energy crashes and energy cravings for unhealthy foods. Things that have a lot of added sugar, of course, are soft drinks and energy drinks, sweetened yogurt, and flavored milk, like chocolate milk, all of your candies, and of course, all of your candies, processed fruit juices, flavored coffee drinks, on and on and on. A lot of things have added sugars. Ketchup. Ketchup has a lot of sugar. You want to look at the bottle to see how much sugar has been added to this ketchup bottle. Unhealthy fats. So, not all your fats are bad, but many processed foods contain trans fats and saturated fats, and these are contributors to heart disease and inflammation. Unhealthy fats raise your LDL cholesterol, which is your bad cholesterol, and this increases your risk of heart attacks and strokes. This promotes inflammation, and inflammation is linked to chronic diseases like arthritis and Alzheimer's. So, high and unhealthy fats are like fried foods, processed meats, packaged baked goods, all of those snacky foods that are packaged, a lot of them have these unhealthy fats in them. So replacing these unhealthy fats with healthy fats means you want to eat more avocados, nuts, seeds, olive oil, sometimes avocado oil, even whole butter is better for you than like a margarine because of how they process that margarine. It is processed with heat, making it an unhealthy fat and unstable. And also sodium. Sodium is essential for body function, but too much can lead to high blood pressure, kidney disease, and heart problems. So many processed foods are loaded with salt. This enhances the flavor and acts as a preservative. So let's talk about just a little bit about things that can be high in sodium, like canned soups and processed sauces, deli meats again, all of the frozen dinners, fast foods. Fast foods are going to have loads of sodium. Uh, if you can cook at home, this is the best option to use fresh ingredients. Check the labels for foods you're buying that are pre-prepared, and look at the salt levels. The differences between whole foods and processed foods are clear. Whole foods are nutrient dense, they're rich in fiber, rich in vitamins and healthy fats, while processed foods lack essential nutrients and they contain unhealthy additives. While some level of food processing is necessary for safety and convenience, excessive consumption of highly processed foods loaded with sugar, fat, and sodium can lead to serious health problems. So let's talk about the health impact of processed foods. Let's see. Health impact. Let's talk about the higher calorie density and reduced nutrient quality. Processed foods has higher calories and lower nutrients like fiber and vitamins. The consequence is too much calorie with no room for nutrient intake for healthy living. A disruption of your appetite regulation. Processed foods, particularly those with too much refined sugar and fat, these disrupt your hunger hormones such as leptin and ghrelin. Leptin sends signals of fullness, and ghrelin induces hunger. So when your hormones get off, you feel like you're hungry when maybe you're not. And also the consumption of too much sugar and artificial sweetener. This processed foods with all this added sugar or even artificial sweeteners, these impact your insulin sensitivity and your fat storage. Okay, so next let's talk about some specific diseases. In 2019, the National Institute of Health found that participants consuming an ultra-processed diet ate 500 more calories per day compared to those who were eating whole foods. Over time, this calorie surplus contributes to obesity and health-related problems. Let's start with type 2 diabetes. Excessive consumption of processed foods, especially those that are refined carbohydrates with added sugars, increases the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. These types of foods cause rapid spikes in your blood sugar levels, leading to insulin resistance. This is a key factor in diabetes development. In 2019, in JAMA Internal Medicine, they found that a 10% increase in ultra-processed food consumption was associated with a 15% increased risk of diabetes. High fructose corn syrup, commonly found in sodas and processed snacks, has been shown to contribute to fat accumulation in the liver, worsening your insulin resistance. Replacing processed foods with whole foods can help stabilize your blood sugar levels and prevent diabetes. Now, heart disease remains the leading cause of death worldwide, and diets high in processed foods significantly increase cardiovascular risk. These processed foods are high in trans fats and saturated fats. Fried snacks, fried snacks, fast food, and margarine contain unhealthy fats that raise your bad cholesterol, the LDL, and they lower your good cholesterol. HDL is the good cholesterol. And so these do the opposite of what we want. So we talked a little bit about excessive sodium intake. These, your prepackaged foods, your soups, your processed meats, these are loaded with sodium. This leads to high blood pressure, and that's a major risk factor for heart disease. High sugar intake has been linked to chronic inflammation, and this contributes to atherosclerosis, the hardening of the arteries. So all of these things contribute to the disadvantage or the problems that leading to chronic disease. Okay, so let's talk about processed foods and cancer. Why might processed foods cause cancer? Well, we've talked a little bit about preservatives and additives, like meats containing the nitrates and the nitrites. These have been classified as carcinogens by the World Health Organization. The carcinogens are cancer-causing additives. So refined carbohydrates and sugar can promote cancer cell growth by increasing insulin levels and inflammation. And processed foods often contain chemical contaminants like artificial flavors and colorings, packaging chemicals like BPA. This is like plastic. And some of these have been linked to cancer. A 2018 study published by the British Medical Journal found that every 10% increase in ultra-processed food consumption was linked with a 12% higher risk of cancer. Let's pause for a second. Okay, let's talk a little bit about inflammation. Trans fatty acids that are found in processed foods, fast foods, are reported to trigger inflammation through raising inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein, that's the CRP. Continuous intake of these trans fatty acids has been linked with heart disease, diabetes, and obesity. So inflammation and high sugar consumption, the increased consumption of sugar elevates the level of inflammatory cytokines. Cytokines. We heard a lot about that during the pandemic. And this is an increase, also increasing inflammation. It's fairly complicated, but just knowing that elevated sugar levels is bad. That's kind of what we need to take away from that. And then, of course, the artificial preservatives and additives are pro-inflammatory. These cause inflammation in your body. All of these food flavors, colors, and preservatives. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about deficiency of fiber. Hang on just one second. Okay, what about gut health? The microbiome, that's the gut microbiome, consists of trillions of bacteria in the digestive system, and this plays a crucial role in digestion, immunity, and your overall health. So the lack of fiber in processed foods just causes, well, let me rephrase that. Processed foods lack dietary fiber, and that fiber is necessary to feed your healthy gut microbiome. So most processed foods are stripped of that fiber. So what your gut needs to be healthy is not there. The artificial sweeteners like aspartame or sucralose, things that are not sugar, that have in the past been allowed for diabetics, but these have been found to lead to a disruption in the microbiome health. And then there are emulsifiers and other items affecting the lining of the gut. So emulsifiers are added daily to food to improve the texture and the shelf life. These are found to destabilize the lining of the gut, and this leads to higher intestinal permeability, or what you may have heard called a leaky gut. So I am going to skip. Let's see, I think I skipped that slide. Oh, let me go back because we're going to talk a little bit more. I may be off on my slides about mental health. So there is emerging research, has been for a few years now, that diets and highly processed foods are linked to depression, anxiety, and cognitive decline. So what affects the mental health? Blood sugar spikes and crashes causes your mood to swing, causes fatigue and irritability. Inflammation and brain function. Chronic inflammation has been linked to depression and neurodegenerative diseases. And also, a poor diet negatively impacts the gut bacteria, which are essential for serotonin production. This is the happy hormone. So what you eat affects what you think. In a 2017 study, the journal BMC Medicine found that people who followed a whole food Mediterranean diet had a 32% lower risk of depression compared to those eating processed foods. Interesting work. Okay, let's talk about research showing how whole foods prevent and even can reverse disease. Let's start with diabetes prevention. There was a Harvard study that found that people who ate 2 or more servings of whole grains per day had a 21% lower risk of type 2 diabetes compared to those who ate refined grains. There was a Predimed study in 2013 that showed that a Mediterranean diet that we just mentioned before, rich in whole foods like olive oil, nuts, fish, and vegetables, reduced your risk of major cardiovascular events by 30%. And a study found in The Lancet noted that people consuming a plant-based diet had lower cancer rates compared to those consuming processed and red meats. In essence, the health risks associated with processed foods are well documented from obesity and diabetes to heart disease, cancer, and mental health disorders. On the other hand, a diet rich in whole foods can prevent or reverse many of these common conditions. So prioritizing fresh and nutrient-dense foods while minimizing ultra-processed food intake is one of the most effective strategies for achieving long-term health and well-being. Okay, let's look at some anti-cancer effects of whole foods. I just gave you some brief studies, but we've talked a little bit before about fruits and vegetables. They are containing those antioxidants and those phytochemicals that combat oxidative stress and inflammation and reduce your cancer risk. Of all the vegetables, the cruciferous types like broccoli, kale, and Brussels sprouts are the very best for being cancer preventers. Whole foods in your diet maintains the mental function and emotional well-being. Omega-3 foods like walnuts and fish support your brain health, and greens provide nutrients for mood regulation. A diet of whole foods helps control hunger, improves your metabolic health, and helps you avoid obesity. Satiety, increasing fiber, is found in all foods, which prevents excessive eating. So even fruit has that nice fiber in it, and so that satiates your appetite so that you don't need to eat more. There is some evidence that whole food diets will increase your insulin sensitivity and lower your risk of type 2 diabetes. A whole food diet has been linked with decreased cholesterol, improved blood pressure, and reduces your heart disease risk. Again, going back to the Mediterranean diet, high in whole foods, high in healthy fats, and lean protein, has minimized cardiovascular disease risk factors. Okay, let's talk just for a few minutes. We're kind of running out of time. We may not finish this, but hidden costs of processed foods. Let's talk about economic and environmental concerns. So obviously, the rising cost of chronic disease is one of the problems. Foodborne illness is responsible for most global healthcare spending for the increase. On its own, America's obesity conditions alone cost the health system over $170 billion annually. Increased absenteeism and reduced workforce productivity due to diet-related illnesses impact our national economies. Sometimes, let me back up. Hang on just one second. Let me pause this. Okay, let me back up a little bit. So many consumers choose processed foods because they are affordable, convenient, and widely available. We've talked about that. But the real cost of these foods extends beyond the price tag immediately. Processed foods that are often high in these unhealthy items contribute to a growing epidemic of chronic disease. All of these things we've talked about, like obesity, heart disease, diabetes, hypertension, these are linked to poor dietary choices. Processed foods that contain trans fats and excessive sodium, increasing your risk of heart attacks and strokes, are part of the problem. As chronic diseases rise, so do medical expenses, insurance premiums, and public health care costs. According to the World Health Organization, poor diet is now a leading cause of premature death nationwide. Nope, worldwide. Governments and taxpayers ultimately bear the economic burden of treating diet-related illness. Okay, when we look at, oh no, I meant to change that slide, sorry. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the food industry. The food industry is highly influential. They use aggressive marketing and lobbying to promote unhealthy food choices. Food corporations spend billions of dollars every year on advertising, product placement, and misleading nutritional claims. Processed foods are marketed heavily, particularly to children. Uh, Labels like low fat or natural can be so deceptive because they often hide high sugar and artificial ingredients. Food industry giants rely on influencing government policies to prevent stricter health regulations on processed foods. Also, government subsidies uh, can influence items commonly found in processed foods like corn, wheat, soy, making them cheaper than whole nutrient-dense foods. Okay, we just have just a little bit of time left. Um, let's talk a little bit about food deserts and accessibility challenge. Okay, what is a food desert? That is an area where healthy, affordable food is scarce, particularly maybe in low-income urban and rural communities. These regions may have limited grocery stores, but an abundance of fast food availability or convenience foods. A lot of places sell convenience stores selling processed foods, and there may be just limited access to fresh fruits and vegetables, and maybe a higher concentration of processed snacks. According to the USDA, over 39 million Americans live in food deserts, disproportionately affecting communities of low income families. So, this is an economic barrier as well. Uh, the higher cost of fresh produce compared to cheap processed snacks, the lack of transportation to the grocery store for fresh food, um, time constraints. Prepackaged food is just faster. And food assistance programs often promote calorie dense rather than nutrient dense foods. When healthier food options are financially or physically out of reach, individuals often rely on cheaper processed alternatives, worsening health disparities. Okay, I'm not going to talk much about the environment and how how processed foods are affecting our environment. I'm going to skip forward a little bit and talk about just some practical strategies. Let me go forward in the slides. Okay. Uh, One of the most effective ways to make healthier food choices is to read the food labels. Food packaging can be so misleading with terms like natural, low fat, sugar free. Um, Learning to identify your harmful ingredients is going to be crucial for avoiding processed foods. And we're probably going to have a training session on how to read labels, but just a brief thing. Ingredients are listed in descending order by weight, meaning the first few ingredients make up the majority of the product. So you want to look for whole food ingredients rather than artificial additives, especially in the first few items. One rule of thumb may be to buy prepackaged things that have 5 ingredients or less, and you understand what those ingredients are. Uh, Many food labels will display a small serving size to make the calorie count appear lower. So be mindful of your portion sizes, especially on snacks and prepackaged meals. The nutritional breakdown on a package, look at the fiber. Aim for at least 3 to 5 grams of fiber per serving for better digestion. A good source of protein should provide at least 5 to 10 grams per serving. So choose products with little to added sugar. Um, Also, the recommended daily consumption of sodium is less than 2,300 milligrams. So processed foods are high in sodium. Choose lower sodium options. Here's some ingredients to avoid. High fructose corn syrup, artificial sweeteners like aspartame or sucralose. There's lots of different names for these. So that's one of the things of recognizing uh, the ingredients that you know what it is. Trans fats, these partially hydrogenated oils. Those are all linked to bad cholesterol and heart disease. And artificial colors and preservatives. Red 40 and yellow 5, these have been linked to hyperactivity in children. So these additives are not good for us. So if an ingredient list has more than 5 unfamiliar items, it's likely to be highly processed. You want to choose fewer and whole food based ingredients. Okay, what about cooking at home? This is your way to control your ingredients. You can avoid excess sugars, sodiums, and unhealthy fats because you're cooking it yourself. You get to control the quality of ingredients that you're using. Um, One of the ways you also, restaurant portions are often oversized. You get to control your portions. It's all about control. And there can be cost savings when you prepare your meals at home rather than eating out regularly, but you have to really plan for this. You have to plan ahead for the week. Planning your meals, ensuring a mix of proteins, vegetables, whole grains, and healthy fats. A great idea is to batch cook. Cook ahead in large portions and store them, freezer or refrigerator, depending on how long you're going to need them. And to properly store them, you want to use airtight containers to maintain the freshness and reduce your spoilage. Prioritizing uh, nutrient-dense foods. One of the ways to have cost and value or low cost and value is to look at this. Okay, like beans. Beans are high in protein and fiber, but they're really cost effective and versatile. Um, One of the other strategies is to buy in bulk. Staples like rice, beans, beans that are dry that you have to soak and cook yourself. Nuts and seeds. These are often cheaper when you buy larger quantities. And then you want to plan to not waste food. That you want to eat what you prepare, and you want to that's why you want to try to control your portions so that you have you're not wasting what you have. So also prepare your snacks ahead. Cut your fruits, cut your vegetables so that you have those snacks ready and you're not tempted to reach for something that is processed. Okay, what about starting with one step at a time? Do things gradually. Swap out sugary drinks for water or tea, herbal tea, or non-sweetened tea. Replace snacks with whole food alternatives. Uh, and just do one thing. Try one thing. Make your healthier choices more convenient. Keeping those pre-cut fruits and vegetables ready to grab for snacking, it makes it much easier if they're ready than grabbing a processed food and taking them with you to work or when you're traveling to get the kids or whatever. You want to make sure those are easy to get to. And then practice mindful eating, eating slowly or savoring each bite. This way, you're not overeating because of the speed. You're listening to your hunger level, your fullness level, and you're taking those cues so that you don't eat unnecessarily. And then establish a good support system. Uh, Involve your family. Involve your friends and look for accountability. Let your people know that, hey, I'm going to try to eat more whole foods. I'm working on my health. Let them know what your goals are so that they can join in the process. Okay, so that is all we've covered through now. I think we've run out of time. And so I'm just going to, let's see if there's something here we can grab real quick. Nope, that's just a review of where we are. I want to thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you have a great day. We'll take questions from the chat. Pause here in just a second.